producer and host of Earth is Our Witness. I want to welcome everyone joining us live from all over the world for a very special episode of Earth is Our Witness. Before we introduce today's very special guest, actually guests, plural, very close to my heart, let me just welcome our artist in residence, the one and only Art Wolfe. Art, how are you doing?
I'm great. And a beautiful day, morning in Seattle means it rained all day long. And we're all happy about that because, as you know, we've been sucking up smoke from the fires in Oregon and California for weeks. So yeah, the rains have finally returned to Seattle.
Great, Art. Always good to have you. Today's episode is again a very, very special episode. Earth is a Witness is a new project we started to help inspire creativity and compassion that ultimately connects us all. And every time we call someone, different with a different topic and a theme, it's always special. And tonight, right now, is no different. I literally grew up in India, watching them on TV, on Discovery and BBC. They are known very fondly and affectionately as the Big Cat people. They are the only couple who have won the Wildlife Photographer of the Year, award as a couple. They are Canon ambassadors, but beyond that, just wonderful, wonderful people from Kenya, from Maasai Mara National Reserve. Let us give us a big round of applause and welcome to the one and only Jonathan and Angela Scott. Hey, Johnny and Angie, welcome. It's great to have you on our show here.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Wonderful.
much.
And you know how wonderful is it that we can connect in this way safely. We can't travel the way we used to, certainly won't be able to travel for quite a while as often. And so to be able to actually link up, and I think the beauty of photography is going to be so apparent, because if you can't go to the Maasai Mara yourself, you can join us and look at our pictures and share the wonder that we feel when we're actually there. And you definitely won't get COVID.
There you go. Angie, it's great to have you here as well. I know we heard a lot about Jonathan as the kind of the face of the brand, but I know you are very core and in the integral part of the Big Cat people as well. So I want to especially thank you, Angie, for also agreeing to join us here.
Thank you, Parimal.
Hi guys. I haven't said hello to Jonathan and Angela, but I'm so happy to see you guys again. So welcome.
I think, Art, you sort of hit the nail on the head in a way, because I think if anything, what the pandemic has done, certainly for us, and I'm sure for a lot of other people, is to live with a sense of gratitude and to actually, wake up every morning and just say a blessing for the gift of life, because it's put things very sharply in focus. I mean, every time somebody's a bit cavalier about the virus, say in America, you just remind yourself over 200,000 people have died. So I think that sense of, and I think the Earth is our witness, from just what Parimal said in his intro, a sense of connection, a sense of respect, a sense of trying to nurture, how important Mother Earth is to us.
Well said. Well, before we get started, a few things I would like to say, for tonight's, for right now, the key topic here. Today is going to be a discussion, if you will, through a series of beautiful photographs about the Marsh Pride of Lions. This is probably the most famous, lion pride in the world. And John and Angie have been documenting and photographing and sharing their stories, epic stories, for the last 44 years. So it's a very famous pride. I'm intrigued by it myself. And I do want to say, before we get started, please do check out their latest, TV program called The Big Cat Tales that you can see on Animal Planet. Also, you can kind of buy it on a lot of the VOD services, Prime, Amazon Prime, Microsoft Movies and TV, various services you can watch, and it's really good. And you can also watch, obviously, the one that I grew up watching in India, which is the Big Cat Diary. Both are really epic, and there's so much more. I do want to make a quick announcement here. Something that even Johnny and Angie don't know, that we're going to have a very special guest towards, in this program itself. They have no idea who it is. It's going to be special. It's a secret guest, and it's going to be fun. So I will keep you all guessing who it is going to be. It's going to be someone that Johnny and Angie, you both know and love, but you actually don't know who it is. So with that suspense, why don't we jump in? And Johnny and Angie, if you would love to kind of walk us through some images and stories, and it's a discussion and we'll have fun.
Okay, so yeah, and just to sort of, in terms of our photography, I think, photography can be a very selfish sort of way of being, in a way, because it's very much the one person looking through a viewfinder. But both Angie and myself can genuinely say that we think of these images as ours. Angie does all of the processing, all of the technical work, and I do a lot of the driving. The last book, Sacred Nature, 85% of the pictures were Angie's, but there is that wonderful sense of sharing. And I think that is something that we really would always encourage the photographic community. Be generous, be open, love other people's work, respect each other, and help each other, particularly now more than ever. So on to the first slide. I think let's see if this is going to work. Did that work?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, so this is a beautiful shot that Angie took. And I know Art, as an artist and as a photographer, will know that we're always hoping we will see something happen, particularly with lions, which spend so much of their time doing absolutely nothing, even at night. So, the time that you get a big male lion that doesn't have his eyes closed, and when you get light like this, and Angie with a big lens just capturing, you wouldn't see all that wonderful mist of this lion's breath. And just close your eyes a minute and I will just roar like a lion. It may sound pretty goofy. But let's give it a go. Are you ready? Yeah, okay, close down the sound. Here we go. Yep. Oh. 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 Oh.
Wow.
That is why Angela is still around after all these years, right?
That's a baby.
Yeah. But anyway, so this, and the key to our photography is really getting to know the individual. And I know, again, Art would agree with this. He does his research. If he's going to a destination, he looks probably at probably he doesn't, but, you were probably, it's not a bad idea to see what did other people do when they went to Thailand or Vietnam or to the Maasai Mara, and just simply don't try, yes, look at other people's styles, but create your own style and your own vision. And I know that, with this kind of picture, the fact is you just want to be able to, if you came on safari as a regular person, the adventure of your lifetime, and you saw this lion, maybe somebody would tell you, oh, well, we know which pride this lion is from. In this instance, the Marsh Pride. We know the name of this individual. He's a particular character. His brother is that lion lying over there. This other male, they don't get on so well. He's just mated with that female. Suddenly, the character of that lion comes alive to you when you look at it. And what Angie loves is to try to capture the sense of the individual and the character of the lion. This is one of the four musketeers. I think it was probably Hunter. And it'll be quite I guess, for people, in case there's anybody watching who have the IDs of these lions, because the four musketeers were Scarface, we'll see a picture of him later, Hunter, Marani, which means warrior, and Sikio, which means ear. And this is either Hunter or Sikio, as far as I can tell, because Marani had a very, very big black mane. But to us, the essence of actually developing our photography with these lions was to get to know them as individuals and understand their behavior. Because when there are in the Mara so many photographers, there's only so many positions you can get into without disturbing the animals. If you know, for instance, what that lion is going to go and drink, or he's going to go over and lie down in the shade, you can then preempt a scramble to get there by being ahead of the group.
Hey, can I just interject that not only is it a beautiful image, Angela, but also for the people that have never been to Africa, I think the preconception is it's a very tropical, warm and hot place. And yet there are really bitter cold mornings. I've been out on safari, and I think the breath coming out of this lion actually tells that story as well. So it not only is a beautiful portrait, but it also tells a story that people may not be familiar with.
Yep.
It was funny, Art, on this actual evening, it actually was just after a hailstorm. And when the hail had gone, the whole ground was white like snow. And, you know, people, if you saw a picture of that, they wouldn't conceptualize that was actually in the marsh.
You know, while Angie's talking to you, I am just going to dig out.
No, we're on the screen share. So
I know,
we'll move on
but
to the next one.
but you carry on. But what was incredible was, you know, aside from the portrait, here we go. Just take a look at this. So what Angie was talking about.
You cannot tame him. Clearly, you
Sorry?
cannot tame him.
See this?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was the same. That was the same day. That was the same evening. So that was the hailstorm. And in fact, these lions, they sort of reacted as if to, you know, somebody was pelting them with marbles, because those, those what do you call them? Hailstones. Those hailstones, my goodness, they were the size of marbles, and they were raining down on the lion, and the lion was looking around as if to say, you know, who's throwing stuff? And the elephant was running for cover. Anyway, have a look at the next shot.
Ooh.
And the reason for including this shot is because obviously it's not lions, but to just remind people that the Maasai Mara in Kenya, the Marsh Pride of Lions who live around Musiara Marsh, that area, or the Mara as a whole, which is the northern extension of the Great Serengeti in Tanzania, is the recipient in the old days of half of the total population of wildebeest that are migrating. So that's 1.2 million. We used to get about 600,000 wildebeest during June through to October, the dry season, when everybody wants to come and see river crossings and see the wildebeest. And this, to us, this captured, you know, probably what it must have looked like on the American prairies in the late 90s into the early 1900s, when they estimate anything between 20 and 50, or even some people say 60 million bison. So the place where we are and the place where the marshlands are is the land of the Great Migration. And again, guess what? I was trying to tell Angie how to take the shot. So I was saying, you know, get low, you know, do this. And she said, Johnny, just shut up. She took this. She took this with a 100 to 400 millimeter zoom, which is a wonderful range for photography and travel. So 100 to 400. Canon, in fact, have brought out a 100 to 500 to go with their new mirrorless cameras. But the adaptability when things are happening fast, to be able to change your view by quickly just using the same lens and zooming in or out. And this was just incredible.
You know, what strikes me is the fact that you've got the foreground wildebeest running to their left, but the distant group is running away. And it makes me think of one of those epic war scenes where platoons of soldiers are moving in different directions. It's very, very powerful image, really powerful.
And you know,
like a painting.
You know, one of the things we always say, Art, and I know you'll agree with this, photographers tend to get excited when they've got great light, but also when there's two things happening. When there's rain or water flying around the place, or when there's dust. And if you can get backlight or side light when you've got flying water, or you've got dust being churned up by a million hooves of wildebeest, then you know you're into it, because it instantly gives you an extra element of drama and of atmosphere. And the light, as you can see, you know, you've got side light. But I tell you another thing about this picture, which is sort of significant. So everybody goes down to places where the wildebeest cross the river. And we went down on this occasion, and this is a place I'm sure Art knows, which we call the cul-de-sac, which the wildebeest go into, and they're funneled into this narrow gap it's not so narrow now because a lot of the bushes have gone, but a narrow gap between the bushes, and then they exit out onto the bank or down to the bank and they cross the river. But they're very spooky because obviously lions and leopards will ambush them from cover, from that thicket as they walk through. And there was a lot of cars in there. And Angie said to me, don't even think about trying to get a space down by. But because we knew what tended to happen, which is that every so often, if you get back out of the entrance point and you just wait, tuck yourself in, out of the way of the animals, every so often the herd turns. And of course, if one starts to run, everybody runs. And that's how we got this picture, which tells you that quite often planning, visualizing ahead the image you think you might get, and then preparing technically how you're going to do it, how you're going to position your car. So, 40 years later, we know what we're doing most of the time.
That's
amazing. I love it. It looks like a painting to me. And every time, yeah, just I could see this. And you know what? That single photo tells the story that 1,000 words could not. So the power of a single image is really unequivocal.
And I think we recognize that, don't we? Sometimes, let's face it, however good a photographer you are, you're going to be taking pictures at times and they aren't the shot. They're not going to be the 5, 10, 100 images, depending how long you stayed at a destination, that you will, water down, you will actually sort of, create as your final edit. If you get 5 great pictures from a shoot, I'm sure you're going to be really happy. And I mean, really, really great shots. But the fact is, a lot of time, you're taking pictures and they're usable and they're okay, but they're not going to be like that wildebeest shot because they just, and as you say, often I used to take pictures with the eye of a zoologist. I was interested in the behavior. Angie was always much more artistic in what she was trying to do. And I think this picture tends to say it, which is that she hasn't driven too close to the lions, but this is the Marsh Pride. And Angie was just having a cup of tea or whatever it was, just was waiting. And the lions just came and flopped down in the shade. Now, normally you would drive away, but in this instance, we were being filmed and it just created, a great shot. And of course, by using a wide angle, maybe an 8 to 15 millimeter fisheye, you're in the Land Rover. And I didn't take it. A lovely friend of ours, Dom West, who was working on Big Cat Tails with us and was doing a recording with Angie with the Pride, he just leaned back with the fisheye. He exposed, as you can see, the interior of the car's sort of dark, but he's got Angie nicely exposed, and then you've got this magnificent pile of lions. So, I mean, again, there's a shot which that a magazine editor, travel magazine or whatever it is, people are going to say, because it catches your eye. Yeah. And it's partly the angle and the lens that was used, but it's also the fact that there's Angie looking as cool as a cucumber, beautiful as ever, and she's surrounded by lions. I mean, how did it feel?
I actually love it when the lions come and use my car as shade, because you feel incredibly privileged that they would just come, and there's no interaction. They just come into the shade and I'm having a cup of tea, and I think, that's so, and there's usually no other cars around. So it's incredibly peaceful, and you just feel, it's just such a special moment in one's life to be able to think, oh, well, they feel that I'm quiet enough that, we can share shade on a hot morning.
Although an interesting thing was this is Angie's Land Rover. This is her pride and joy, and you can see just quickly a little bit of technical detail. So we take the doors off, and then we've got Manfrotto. I'm pointing, which I don't need to do. You can see them, but you've got Manfrotto video heads with a plate which is attached to the bottom of our telephoto lenses, and it can slide up and down on a rail. So you can move it, you move your position, and then you can tilt and shift, and you can use the third movement that you need to have for your camera, because you've got the lens collar, which you can loosen off to allow you to twist the lens, so you've got up and down, you've got this way, and you've got that way. So you've got all those movements. And then bottom part below the window area or the open area, that is canvas, and we can unzip it and Angie can lie and get low angle shots as well. But funnily enough, when she was in a different car, and Angie was the stills photographer on all of the Big Cat series, she was photographing down on Paradise Plain a very famous group of male lions who were part of the Marsh Pride. And they were the males before the Musketeers, who were ousted by the Musketeers. And they were called Notch and his boys. And one day, Angie was down there in her Toyota, photographing out of one window. And she turned round and...
Well, it wasn't actually quite like that.
Okay, she'll give you the real story.
It was just after a rainstorm when... there was Notch's boys, which were 4 young, reasonably young male lions. And when they get very razzed up when the rain comes, and they were hunting warthogs. So they were going to all the burrows and trying to dig to see if they could get any warthogs out. And they were coming towards me down the plain. So I thought, and I was again by myself. And I thought, well, if I just got in front of them, I'd get the lovely shot of them walking towards the car. But at one point, I'm sitting on the side, on the film door side, and one of the young males coming towards me, instead of going past the car, veered towards the film door and came straight towards me. And we locked eyes, which is really not a good thing to do. Oh, okay. So I sort of somersaulted into the back. And he came and knocked, I had a 500mm lens out of the film door, and he put his head and just gently pushed it. And I thought, Jonathan's going to be so mad at me.
Well, no,
that's what I could think of.
But you know, actually, that's funny, isn't it? Often you're worried of the consequences. But a friend of ours, Art, one time photographing with his door, he had a door mount too, a wonderful photographer who you'll know of, Mitsuaki Iwago, who did stunning work in the Serengeti in the 80s. And Mitsuaki said to me one time, he had his arm resting on the windowsill or the ledge of his door, of his open door. And he just had his hand there, and he was sort of just, you know, long days, 12 hours, nothing much happening. As I say, Lan's doing very little. And he sort of slightly dozed off. And then he sort of, you know, woke because he felt something wet on his hand. And there was a lioness licking his hand. She just walked up, you know, because he'd been waiting for him to hunt. And that rasping, lions have very, you know, like cats, they have all those little sort of prickles on it, you know, as a brush. Anyway, can you imagine? Wow. Fortunately,
imagine that. I'd get a heart attack.
Well, the big thing is not to jump or make a sudden movement, because then, of course, you know, you might actually get hammered. So now here's the marsh. You know, people say to us, why the Marsh Pride? You know, like, do they swim? You know, because everybody knows, well, cats, even though they will cross rivers and they will get into waters, and we know it depends on temperature. Look at India with tigers or jaguars in the Pantanal. You know, cats will do what they feel like, and they can make a fuss about it and pretend we don't really like doing this. But, you know, at times, well, as we know, tigers will just lounge around in the water. But the Marsh Pride were named the Marsh Pride because the core of their dry season territory is a beautiful area that we call Musiara Marsh, and it's a honeypot for birds, for the wildebeest and zebras during the dry season, hence the lions staking it out. And but in this particular instance, the Marsh Pride, it poured with rain. And of course, again, you know, people will say, oh, my cameras are going to get wet. Well, get some of those waterproof housings. You know, there's never a reason not to get the shot, you know, if you possibly can. As one underwater photographer said one time, although, you know, it sort of gives you that sense of madness that can come over us when we want to get the shot. He said, I would literally put my head in the shark's mouth in that moment where you suddenly think, that's it, but don't do it. Anyway, so the Marsh Pride on a wet day, and you know, you could have tons of fun in a situation like this by changing your shutter speed, because the lions weren't moving at all. So you could be shooting at slow speeds, you got the camera locked off on a tripod, and now you can go through the gears, 30th of a second, 15th of a second, you know, 60th, 500th, 1,000, and see the different effects that you will get with the water. So just one of those, you know, the Marsh Pride and a lovely
Hey,
time.
don't move on.
Yeah.
Don't move. Hey,
Oh,
go back.
Oh, sorry. Go back.
You know, now I understand, and I feel so sorry for you, Angela. He never pauses to allow you to say anything, does he?
He was about to.
You know,
That's why I moved on. I was going to the next photo, so
I know, but you're like me. You are a great narrator, Jonathan. But I do want to say something. This is an amazing image. And which of you shot it, or do you want to both claim credit for it?
No, I said, you know, to be quite honest, we were both shooting at that time, and that's
Okay.
what tends to happen. You know, it's like, and you know, I think the joy for us is we just think, and I don't think we're being disingenuous because, you know, by thinking, well, you know, but who did take the picture? You know, to us, we're so into the photography, and many times Angie will say, she'll see a shot or I see a shot, and we just get the other person's in a better position to take it, or they've got the right lens, or run up the stairs quickly. There's, you know, with the wide angle, there's a great shot looking down. Well, so, you know, it was just one of those days. But
Okay. Can I answer that question, Art? I want to answer that question.
Wait. Before you answer it, that's not my question. I want to make a statement. So
Okay.
whoever shot this shot, the stunning part of it is perfect light for a very complex shot. You've got what, 10, 15 cats in that shot. So perfect light, because it's very simple. But the point I want to make is two. They face outward because they're always looking for something approaching them, right? They're either looking for food or they're looking for a male lion that could come in. But it also is indicative, as you alluded to, that maybe 10 years ago, you could never have shot the shot. But with high ISOs, we can freeze every water droplet, which is a very different way, because you know and I know we met in the Mara, what, nearly 40 years ago, early on. If you shot the shot with film, it would have been so blurred out, it would look like mist. But now we can see that beautiful dots of rain coming down, and it really completes the story. Now go ahead, Parimal, before Jonathan starts talking.
What I was going to say is, you know, here's today's conversation, yes, is about the Marsh Pride, but it's also about family and love, really. And the reason I say that is, you know, and we will see when we have the guest, you know, secret guest join, is I see a lot of love between Angie, you and Johnny. You know, I can imagine, Johnny, you in your prime in 1977, being a single guy in Kenya, doing whatever you want. And somehow you got lucky with this beautiful woman called Angie. And I can see the love and romance is still so nice that it doesn't matter who shot it. You guys are one. You're not two people anymore.
Yeah, and my point wasn't to distinguish who shot it, was just to complement the shot. But at any rate, beautiful. I love it. Looks like a
Thank you. Okay, so this Angie took this picture.
Well, it's at the same time as
and actually, Art, this was when we were talking about one of those lions putting his head in Angie's car. This was 2008 when we were filming Big Cat Live. So we started in 96, and Big Cat went for 12 years, ended up with Big Cat Live. And Angie was having the time of her life because Notch's boys, of which these are two, we had this older male, Notch, and his 5 younger offspring, or him and his coalition partner who had been killed, offspring, had been ousted by those musketeers, Scarface, the roaring lion, or the steaming lion at the beginning. They'd ousted these ones, and the 5 were too young to make too much of a difference and try and stay on. And they moved down to Paradise. And I kept saying to the producers, you know, Angie is just getting some amazing imagery with these males, you know, roaring, moving, iconic shots like this. Again, you know, for a travel magazine, and let's face it, as much as we love taking pictures, we do also need to try and make a living. And so we're not just taking pictures that we love to take, but we're also got our eye to business. You know, now, you know, oh, there's a shot there, and it might have a car in it, but it could mean that, but that would be great because it says people on safari. But in this instance, 2 male lions, iconic African safari image. And anyway, so Angie had the time of her life, and she got such beautiful pictures with these males.
It's
Lovely light. Just beautiful light.
Now you can say something more.
Well, no, it's that they had just literally dug a warthog out of that
out of this termite
and they're
mound.
looking so shocked because he popped right out.
Was that what had happened?
That was the same.
Okay,
evening.
I thought, I always say to people, this is typical males, looking out across their territory, looking for, invaders. No, they're looking at the back end of a warthog that's just escaped from under their nose.
Oh, the shape of the the lion's back, the clouds, the mound, it has a lot of kind of beautiful shapes and leading to it.
And that gorgeous sky, a bit of drama. It's dramatic, isn't it?
It's very dramatic. Oh wow.
Yeah, the thing is, whenever I show this, and I say to Angie, because we got loads of silhouettes and stuff, and of course, first thing in the morning, before the sun comes up, what are you going to be doing? And I can remember reading something that Art had written a long time ago, which was so true, which there's, you're shooting 30 minutes way before the sun comes up. You're out there, you're not having breakfast or waiting for the sun to come out. And for us, of course, often we are trying to find lions or elephants, something big that you can put up against the horizon. And Angie often says, it's a male and a female. So from a behavior point of view, it's a courting couple. But there's lots of things that aren't quite right with this shot because, you wish the male's tail was up, you wish the female's head was slightly more turned towards this. But hey, that's photography. And you just keep waiting and hoping and refining. And you take a shot like this in the hope that the tail will come up. And invariably, the lion just plonks down on his bottom.
I love her silhouette. I actually like it with her head down because it creates a nice shape. It's almost like a flattened S curve. I think her, her shape and the details of the grass is the thing that strikes me the most. Such a nice environmental portrait.
And you can see, can't you, as I look at it a little more carefully, you can see, she's trying to move away from the male and he's always going to follow because she's in season, he wants to mate. So anytime she moves, he gets up and thinks it's an invitation to mate. But by reading her body language, you can see a slightly submissive look on her head, even though I can't see her eyes or her face. Her head is slightly turned and she looks as if she's almost, just going to flop down as well. You can see she's almost, the front legs are beginning to give way and, she's just going to, drop down.
Yeah.
Now, tell me if you don't like this.
Oh, cute.
Oh, beautiful. Just beautiful.
And you took that.
Cute.
I just love beautiful blue eyes. Oh, really, really nice.
And Art, a thing I think that we always say to people, when you first start taking pictures, you tend to take often the wide view, or you feel there's a lioness with a cub. I've got to get all of the lioness in and the cub. But look how effective. It doesn't work if you take the lioness's nose out of the picture and you just have the paw, you begin to lose a bit of context. Yes, the cub's still cute. It's great that one paw is off the ground, that gives its energy, but that nose of the lioness, you don't need to see her eyes. Angie's got another picture where you can see the eyes and you can debate whether you like that more. But there's just, the idea of cropping, and if you can, of course, actually getting the shot right in the field. And I know now some of these cameras, 50 megapixels, God knows what, and the detail you can get from these digital cameras, you can crop in, but rather like with getting your exposures right and all of the elements of photography, I know you'd back us up in this. Don't be lazy, try and get it right out there. Don't say, I'll fix it later.
But also, to me, it always feels you can feel the integrity of the shot when it's been taken in camera rather than, on the computer taking little bits out of the shot. Maybe I'm just
No, but I think you're right. And you see, what was great here, Parimal, was, and this is where I think we've been so fortunate, is because we realized very early on that we needed a mixed bag of things, you know, to create sufficient income. And so in this instance, there was me basically being filmed presenting what was happening here, which was this lioness notch from the next pride, the neighbors of the Marsh Pride, the Ridge Pride or the Topi Plains Pride, who are the next pride over to the east and who are actually an offshoot from the Marsh Pride. It was founded in recent times by young females who were just too many to be kept in the main Marsh Pride. They managed to actually carve out a territory for themselves adjacent to the main pride, and then over time became a fully fledged pride with pride males, had cubs and generations, but they're relatives. But this female notch was moving these cubs through very dangerous time out in the open, looking for hyenas. And of course, she'd done her homework. She had sat and sussed out, looked and stared. And a lot of people would have driven up and thought, okay, she's just looking maybe for food, you know, just looking around. No, we later realized she was checking for danger, and then she made this move. So now I'm being filmed by a camera crew. I've got a camera man with me in my car to get me talking to his camera. We've got another car with a big lens, a Canon 50 to 1000 zoom, $100,000 piece of kit. And so they're picking up the wildlife footage and Angie's picking up the stills. So in Big Cat Tales, you would have seen this event. And, you know, that's, I suppose, what one really loves and wants, is that we can pick up, there's two of us, and we can pick up a lot more as a partnership and as a team than we could on our own.
I think that's a great point, Jonathan. And because otherwise, were you working with Abraham at that moment?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, you know, Abraham and I have done some shows in Africa and New Guinea. Great guy out of Sydney. But, you know, at a certain point, when you're looking at the camera and conveying what's happening, and Angie is photographing the event, and you got another camera photo, you know, as a photographer, you really want to be shooting as well. But you've got that job. You've got to communicate. So you're a bit torn at that moment, I'm sure.
But you see, you're so right, Art, because I am so fortunate that Angie's going to get the shot that I would otherwise be taking. And actually, Art, on a number of occasions, had to get quite strong with me and say, Johnny, look, you know, Abe, yeah, Abraham, you know, the series producer and a wonderful cameraman, the Australian that filmed, and your shows were wonderful, Art. I mean, I've watched all of those in Tales by Light, and what a great series, but also, you know, wonderfully informative, the way you were able to show people what you were doing. It didn't have to get too technical. And of course, with great videography, you can make stills photography interesting for the mainstream audience. Anyway, so Abe had to say to me, Johnny, no, put that bloody camera down. You know, because I'd have my 200 to 400 Canon with the 1-point extender, and I would be itching. And in fact, when we were filming Big Bear Diary, I remember getting such a bollocking from the sound man, because we had two bears. A male had just, a female, was it? Yeah, a male had just caught a salmon, and a female, quite ballsy, she went and tried to contest it, and the male went up on his back legs with the fish in his mouth and swatted her on the shoulder. I mean, it was so dramatic. Anyway, I got a great stills photo of it. And the sound man was so angry with me, because of course they were filming that, and there was sound, which of course for the sound man is crucial. And there's Johnny's camera clicks all over it, you know, 10 frames a second. So, but I just couldn't resist it. So I'm glad you raised that, Art, because it is very hard to be a presenter when actually what you want to do is to be a photographer.
Yeah,
I have a quick question. A question when I see the cub here. Yeah, actually, this is a great image. Let's just pause here. That's fine. No, let's go ahead. That's okay.
Okay.
I got a minor point too. So sorry. Go back one more time for both Parimal and me. These are two engaging photos. Okay, go ahead, Parimal.
Yeah, and this is a question not as a photographer, if you will, but as you get close and I'm sure you get personally attached probably to these lions and their cubs, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're seeing them every day.
Yeah.
And even the brutal fact that many of these cubs actually don't make it, I'm guessing many of them die, unfortunately, because other males, invade them. How do you deal with the personal loss when you get attached to a cub or cubs and you see some of them don't survive? How do you deal with that loss?
It's terribly hard. I mean, whatever anybody would say that, you're just behind the camera and, you're not going to connect. But if you spend, what is it, 12 hours a day for months at a time?
Yeah, months.
And watching from almost when they're born. So when they're tiny, 3 weeks, up to when they're, and you watch their characters develop, and you can't help but get attached to particular little lion cubs or a particular female. And it's heartbreaking.
Well, and especially where you are actually going to witness. I mean, I remember we were in Leopard Gorge one time with a famous leopard that Art knows called Halftail, who was a star of the first Big Cat Diary series, 1996. In fact, we couldn't have done Big Cat Diary because for a series like that, you needed, for instance, 3 strong characters, 3 strong elements. So perfect, lions, leopards, cheetahs. But leopards, as Art knows, until relatively recently, certainly in the Mara, were very difficult to find because they'd been poached and the ones that had survived because they kept their heads down. And then along, we had Halftail, who we found every single day for, say, 50 days of filming. And anyway, between Big Cat Diary 1996, and then 98, so she was there again. But in 99, I think it was, or no, maybe it was just before that, Angie and I heard that Halftail had had a new litter of cubs in Leopard Gorge. So we went bombing down there with our vehicles, stayed at Governor's Camp, went to see her, we found her, and to our horror, a young adult male leopard had moved into the territory, and he came sniffing around. And earlier in the day, he had found Halftail, had been very suspicious, must have smelt cubs, chased her away. She was up a tree further down the ridge. And then we found him and we watched, and we were with a camera crew from Paramount Television, a series called Wild Things that we worked on for 3 years. And we filmed infanticide. So we filmed this male going into the cave. We didn't even know which cave where the cubs were. We'd only just arrived. And he comes out with a little tiny cub in his mouth. He's bitten it through the neck. And the cameraman films it. And then he turns to Angie, who is just sitting with tears streaming down his face. And he did what I just always find so insane, and I get so frustrated with correspondents on the news who just endlessly say to somebody who's lost a child, a widow, they've been in a war, they've just watched it, how do you feel right now? You want to slap the person. How do I feel right now? You don't. And actually, it's stupid television. All you needed to do, if you wanted to be intrusive, and that was fair enough, was to come to Angie with tears coming down her face. Do you need to say a word? No. Anyway, so there we go. There's my rant. On to the next picture. And okay, so now an interesting point.
Johnny, quick time check. It's 10:45. I do want to call the guest, in a couple minutes. But we should probably speed up the images and the stories. Just a quick time check.
So right, but I'll just tell you quickly. Angie loves this lioness. Was called Cloudy Eye. She had a cloudy eye. Miraculously, that eye cleared up. The lioness in the middle, licking the little cub, who was called Moja. That was Kabibi, and then there's Dada on the right. This just, it tells you everything, doesn't it? The pride, the sisterhood. Yeah, Angie, I tell you, Angie could just do a whole series on the sisterhood.
You learn so much about the courage of females, and when they bond together, I've learned so much.
Yeah, I mean, they're a force to be reckoned with.
To speed them up.
Yeah, we're gonna, now this is where Angie says, just get a move on.
Yeah, no, get them
Yeah,
on.
so, you know, playtime.
Oh, that's great.
Oh,
Yeah,
lovely.
and then, no, I know Art will like this.
Oh,
You know,
Wow.
when you get those situations, Angie was in the perfect position. Side
Wow.
light, you can see the light coming from the side. We had maybe 10 lions on a wildebeest carcass. They were down in a gully where they'd killed it or it had become trapped in the mud. And then the hyenas were all around them. And that's why the lioness is looking so alert. And then this
Go
is
ahead.
Scar,
Okay.
this
Oh my.
this is Scarface just dishing it out.
Oh my.
wow, this is intense. This is intense. Oh my
Okay,
God.
now what about this?
Oh my God.
So this is Notch. This is a great shot that Angie got when we were fiddling around filming things which were far less interesting. But you can see the big daddy, Notch. And these were his younger relative. And I mean, I love this photo because, you know, we talk about young adolescent males. They're a pain in the ass across the planet, whether they're polar bears, hyenas, lions. They're going to be in your face. They're pumped up on steroids. They're running around. Right now, they'll be out there without their masks on and they won't be socially distancing. And they'll be causing havoc for everybody. But what I love about this is the old boy, he doesn't even bother to raise his lips to show he's still got some teeth. But the guy on the right, the youngster, he is frightened. He wants to stand up to the old man, but he knows he's got to absolutely give it everything. It's a fantastic shot.
Yeah.
Wow. What are the names of these lions again?
So that was Notch, and this is one of Notch's boys.
Oh,
And here they are. Now look, this is that.
Oh
so
my
there's the young guy on the right. Look at him a couple of years later, and I know that Art loves, like all of us, you know, to get down low. You've got these lions coming towards you, and of course, normally with lions, see the one in the background, he's got his eyes closed. And that's what a lot of times when these old boys are moving, you know, they're trying to conserve energy, they've been sleeping or they want to sleep. But these two in the foreground, the one in the middle who had this incredible mane, and he lived to 15 years of age, and he was called Notch too. But these males, the intensity on their faces. What do you reckon, Ange?
Well, it was a particularly special morning, that morning.
And you know, Art, it'd make you laugh because Angie says, what is it about you guys? Anytime there's a big male lion or a big bull elephant, it's like, oh my God, just look at the size of that lion's mane. Look at the tusks. Something about the men.
actually, don't go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
go
going
ahead.
too fast now.
Oh, but
I'm not
you
gonna
told
be
me
able to-
we're out. You told me we're out of time.
I know. Go back one more time. Just one, and I'll tell you, Angie. Look at the male in the middle. Look at the hair above its eyes. How the fur between the mane and the eyebrows is like coiffed. It is so perfect. It is like an amazing lion. And I know you've got history with all the other ones, but boy, that one couldn't be more. It's like it came out of a hair salon. It's so perfect.
He was particularly beautiful.
Yeah, Angie's got a gorgeous picture of him in our next book, Sacred Nature 2, where he's mating and he's sort of rearing up, and oh, it's just incredible. Now, this was one of those times where you talk about investment. So this is Carly, an old lioness, and she was the mother of a lioness who became world famous in the Marsh Pride, who was called Bibi. And Bibi, sadly, was one of the 3 lions of the 8 that were poisoned in December 2015 at 17 years of age. And she was still going strong. So the daughter of this female, Carly, and who died in that poisoning. But the reason that you've got such an intent picture here, which Angie took that morning, was this lioness is seeing 2 incoming males who are taking over the Marsh Pride. She had 4 little cubs. You can see the cub doesn't really know what's going on. It'll be feeding a little bit off its mother's intensity and might go, and in fact, they ran down a warthog burrow. She eventually lost all of these cubs. And yeah, you know, it's heartbreaking. And Angie is, you know, all of us, but you can't interfere. That's one thing we always say. And sometimes I question it, but I think you have to, for simplicity, say, let's not play God here, because, you know, you get people picking up baby Thompson's gazelles that the mother has left lying out in the open. A car drives up, the little gazelle pops up because they nearly drive it over, and then the visitors want to pick it up and rescue it. No, bad decision. Or they want to intervene when hyenas and lions are going at it. Nature's got its own balance. And if we start trying to actually, you know, curate what's going on out of there, that's not nature.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a
Oh,
really
look, now. Hey, look at this.
Whoa. Look at
What
those
about
scars. Look at the marks. That's
this
warrior.
male. Now, well, Angie's going to tell you about this male. It's her photo, double page spread, BBC Wildlife.
Well, actually, it was, I have to say, it was a bit of a lucky shot.
Don't say that.
It's not cropped, it's how I took it in camera. And you can see, if I had been with more time, I would have given him more space behind that eye.
But
It does make it quite a strong, you know, because his eyes are so wild.
And you know, we always talked about this lion because all lions have yellow eyes, but this male died at 14. He was killed. He was pushed out by the musketeers. So his name was Claude because he was all clawed up. He lived very long age, 14 years. He was beaten up, left for dead by the musketeers. And he was then, the rangers did intervene. They killed the topi and fed him. He came and lay up near our cottage. And then later he got into one of the cattle bomas. His teeth were so worn down that he was killed, speared by the Maasai, you know, and you can't blame them for that. He's in a boma. He could potentially kill somebody. And he's got this cow by the throat, but his teeth are so worn down, he wasn't able to kill it, but they killed him. And I sort of saw his skull later. But this lion, to me, was symbolic with that thing that I've said about how every day we wake up with a sense of gratitude for the gift of life. Every minute is precious. Don't waste it. And this lion epitomized that, because he would look at you as if to say, I might look old, I may look a bit decrepit, my back legs are gone, I'm going to drag myself to the next kill. I will keep going till the hyenas or people or other lions kill me, but I am not going to just roll over. And that's what that picture says to you. I bet you it's the last one. Look at that.
Look the video.
wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Great work. Now you probably can't see that, can you?
I think it's a wonderful thought that lions have been here for thousands of years. These lions' ancestors were here.
I can't even begin to guess what the word paradise means to you. But for me, it was always to come to Africa, to see, to listen to wild lions, to find a place like this, the Maasai Mara in Kenya.
In our culture, we call leopards shadows. It's not the majestic walk of a lion. It's a different majesty. It is just stealth.
Beautiful. Well, on that note, could you guess who the guest is?
No.
Okay. Do you want to see?
Of course.
Let me admit the guest. On the note of love and family and the pride.
Hey, look at that. Oh my
Do you mind
goodness.
minimizing your keynote screen? Do you mind stop sharing so we can see?
Do I need to do anything? What do I need to do?
David and Tori, to introduce David and Tori. David is Angie and John's son, very good looking son, and a very good looking soon to be daughter-in-law, Tori.
Hello, everyone. I'm on that.
Nice.
Nice to join you guys.
I gotta say, they do look pretty damn gorgeous, don't they?
You're too kind.
Where are you guys?
So, yeah,
we are in Santa Fe, New Mexico at the moment.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
The
No, we've
reason-
been following along.
as I said, the reason we, when we talked about Johnny and Angie bringing you in to talk about Marsh Pride, yes, it's about lions, but as I said earlier, it's also about family and love. And I thought, what a wonderful way to also introduce, your kids. I gotta say, Johnny and Angie, you are one, and in talking to David and Tori, I can see that you are one too. You're not two different people, you are one. And it's just great to have you join towards the end of Earth is Our Witness with your parents.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
It's the first time we've ever joined a call like this when they've been having a talk. So this is a fun new experience for
Hard
us.
to keep it a secret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're so lucky though, because with David and Tori, we're such a close family, and they actually have taken over the business as we get, like the old lion and lioness. They are actually running the business for us, it's such a joy to have that in one's life as one, gets into this other stage and see them, taking the reins. And
the only worry though, Parimal, is that of course if it is like the Lions family, then the old man will definitely get ousted and kicked out, and Angie, the old lioness, will be able to just hang in there and be looked after, and I'll be out on my own.
Granny with all
Don't worry, Dad. We won't oust you at all. You'll stay forever.
To that point, Angela, to that point, just watch Johnny as he's eating meat. If he can't chew that piece of meat, it's time to put him out in that boma.
Oh, listen,
You saw.
Yeah. Oh, did you put it in?
Look, hey, Parimal, I thought to myself,
What's next?
I haven't managed to get to the dentist because, of course, with COVID, we're in lockdown. I've still got the tooth is in here.
I think that's a first. This is a first for our Earth is Our Witness now.
Yes. This is
So
our first.
when
Do you want to meet my cub? Do you guys want to meet my cub?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's
He has
see them. Where are they?
preparing. Come.
We love cubs.
There's my young man.
Wow,
very
oh
nice.
my goodness, that is a subadult. That is way more than a cub. Hey, I can see next show he'll be actually sitting in the seat. You'll be on the ground.
Oh, he is a true lion. He's plotting it. He's trying to dominate me, bully me. He's getting up there. I can see
Go
that.
for it. Yeah, you check out your dad's weaknesses. Definitely. Good work. What is his name?
Ayan.
What was it?
Ayan, A-Y-A-N, Ayan.
Ayan.
Gift of God in many of the languages, including Arabic. It means gift of God.
And what I'm just trying to see what is on his t-shirt because it's very funky.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
He has a few questions for you guys. And then I have a few. Go for it.
A mandrill.
Oh, is it a mandrill?
It may be.
Probably. Okay. What are your questions, Ayan?
Who's your favorite Marsh Pride lion?
Go closer.
Who's your
Let's
favorite
get
Marsh
Angie.
Pride
We'll get
lion?
Angie. Yeah, male or female?
Any.
Okay,
It would
so
have to be Scarface.
yeah, so Angie's saying Scarface.
Just
Well,
because he's so
Angie is,
wonderfully famous.
yeah, I'm gonna.
Johnny, if you can move back a little bit so we don't crop your face, Johnny.
Yeah. While you're talking, I'm going to show you a picture of Scarface. Angie will be just checking.
The real Scarface.
So there's that Scar. You see Scarface? He's the one
with the
with
eye.
a wound on his eye. You see? But anyway, and now look at this. This was so funny. We don't normally mess around with our images, but we wanted to know what would Scarface have looked like in his prime if he had both eyes. So we took his good left eye and we put it in his right eye. And we told people what we'd done, but just to give you, what do you reckon?
Beautiful.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very strong.
Okay, so now I'm going to show you, but that's how he really looks now.
Wow.
Wow.
Life on the plains is a tough business.
You're not kidding.
Yeah. And you had one more question. And by the way, Art, if you want to call Gav, I know Gav is family too.
Okay, yeah. Gabriel, I'm gonna introduce Gabriel. He's not my husband, but he's been with me for 30 years and we've worked together and often we share photos. Yeah, we share photos. So come on over here.
Art and Gab are those two male lions who hunt in packs.
Right.
We
Okay.
watch
So
each
they're
other.
nomads. They're a couple of nomads.
Hi there.
Hi there.
Art and Gav. Where is he? I don't see him.
He's behind
He's
us.
down.
Okay, can you see me?
Oh yes, yes. Now, hey, how fantastic! And all we're missing now is a really nice drink, because I know Art has this wonderful cocktail hour.
Yes.
It's a little early in the day for me.
Well,
but
no,
it's
we don't
perfect
care.
for you
We
guys.
don't care.
Yeah, same.
I would love a cocktail right
Yeah,
now.
but it's breakfast time for them.
It's breakfast. But hey, I know somebody who used to drink vodka. What do they call them? Vodka orange at breakfast. Not us.
What is
So you
that
have-
called?
A screwdriver.
Screwdriver.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
screwdriver.
Probably it's better to start with an Irish coffee.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
that
love
would be my
Irish
choice.
coffee. Or in Kenya, also we have some lovely liqueurs like Amarula,
Yes.
which is sort of like a Bailey's. Yeah.
So what's your
So,
question?
you know,
This young man, I can see he's going to go far.
yeah. No, he's got a good father and good mentorship. He may not realize that right now, but he's got a good father.
He does not realize how good of a dad I am. He does not realize. I'm glad. I want to thank you all for recognizing that. Hopefully, okay. What's your last question? And then
Don't all the tourists bug the lions and make them frustrated?
You know, that's an interesting thing. I can remember one time being very lucky, 1982-3, when they made the BBC made a film on the on the book, the first book, The Marsh Lions, and Sir David Attenborough came out and joined me on safari because he was going to do the narration for the show. And he asked me the same question. He said, don't all these other vehicles and cars, doesn't it just drive you crazy? But you know what? And I think it's a very important thing. My position is always, don't get distracted by what other people are doing, because if you do, then you waste the opportunity of being there. I just tend to shut it out.
I'm the same way.
Just close it out. But it can be, yes, if you get involved with it.
Or if they're involving themselves.
Yeah, I
and
mean, okay,
disturbing the
there
animals.
is an issue with too many vehicles, bad behavior, crowding the predators, and it can look very ugly. And it's something that all of us as photographers would love not to be part of, and to try and, you know, help make sure that we don't actually exacerbate that situation. But no, it's a good question, and you're right. But we're just determined to focus. You know, I want to enjoy being with the Marsh Pride, and I just block out all that other noise.
It has gotten worse over the last couple of years, I have to say.
Oh.
I was over in the Triangle a couple of years ago, and I largely worked in the Triangle, which is outside of where the Marsh Pride is, I believe. And we went one day into where we used to work all the time in the 80s and 90s. And I was stunned at the number of cars, but also on the bad guiding and the bad driving. So yeah, it's a good point, and something would need to happen eventually going forward, because
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's become such an issue now. And one of the good things is that the government, both national government, so the Kenya Wildlife Service, which is the national organization protecting wildlife, and then the administration that runs the Narok County Council, which runs the reserve, together have come together and are trying to get, by 2002, accreditation for the Mara, which it should be based on environmentally, spectacular place that it is and unique, a World Heritage Site, because the Serengeti is. But it isn't so far because there isn't a management plan. It isn't run as well as it should be. And I think that desire to try and achieve that will drive, it'll give a really good reason for people to now actually say, you know what, if we're serious about doing this, and because they're going through the process of trying to get accreditation, people now are in the know as to, well, what happened? Why didn't you get it? Oh, we're not surprised. You've allowed another camp, another lodge. There's too many vehicles. It'll bring it into the open, and it'll force it to be addressed one way or the other.
Great. I had a quick on that segue, a question for Tori and David, you guys. And David, I'm assuming grown up in Kenya, and Tori,
Yes.
you've been back a couple times too. What would you say to kids of this generation? My kid, who are not really seen the wild yet, love just lots of gaming time indoors and what have you. To a question to both of you, what would you say kids of this generation that they're missing out on, or any message, if you will?
Shall I go?
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, I would just say that I think getting outside and getting outdoors is just so important for kids. Obviously, like you said, a lot of my childhood was spent outdoors. I had the privilege, and I was so lucky to be, out on safari with my parents all the time. So I had a particularly unique, lucky childhood. But I feel like any kid, getting outside and actually, experiencing the outdoors or nature, it's so, I don't know, it's incredibly rewarding. It's incredibly good for their growth. Nature as well is this spectacular thing that, it blows everything else out of the water when you really compare it to, even technology or games or anything. I mean, the wonder of nature is incredible. And so for kids to be able to experience that in real time and let it affect their growth and their upbringing, I think is just really important. So I would say get out and be outside as much as possible, once a day minimum.
Yeah, in England, there's been the rewilding. Do you know about rewilding, where people are taking children out, putting them into the forest, and saying, "Okay, we're going to pick you up in 5 hours. Just go and have fun." And that's what's happening. It's like getting the kids, like Jonathan and I grew up with dirt under our fingernails. We're rooting around in the woods and the ravines. And, it's just an incredible point, David, that you just made. It's getting out into the wild, getting them away from the computer and technology, and just letting them experience nature. Otherwise, they're going to be the caretakers of the planet someday. And we got to get them connected.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, it's at that age as well that it's so important.
Yeah, I think you don't have to have, grown up in Kenya to appreciate small parts of nature. If you live in a city, going to a local park, or even having a potted plant in your home, like being able to experience different parts of nature, you can do that anywhere, which is really
Gab's got a point here too.
But I think that's up to the parents to make that happen, because these days the parents are so busy with their professional life, and I think they need to take a little bit time to make sure that happens.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely encourage it.
I have a 15-year-old son, and when I'm going to get back home to him, I need to make that happen, because he doesn't want to. He wants to be in front of the computer playing games.
Absolutely.
But you need to break that barrier.
Yeah.
Anyway. Well said. You can say bye. We're going to continue for a few more minutes. You want to say anything? Bye.
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 Well said. Well said.
Okay, I'm going to say bye too, and hope to see you guys again.
Absolutely. Lovely to see you. Love to your wife and family.
So I know we're going over, but this is so wonderful and special, and it's okay. Time will stop for us. I had a couple more questions, as well. I'm going to ask, Tori and David, focus on you now. Like you're the new generation, like Angie, Johnny, like the old generation. You're the new guys. Yeah.
It's very true.
Wonderful.
Look, we're receding into the darkness. We just faded away.
You have Simba and Nala here, So David and Tori, you guys took a different path, I mean, I'm sure anyone who would know you would say, well, why are you not in Kenya carrying on exactly what your dad is doing? But you ventured out and doing something of your own. And so tell us a bit about your perspective, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you actually just, explained it perfectly, where I reflect on my childhood and my, upbringing, and a lot of the time as I, got into my late teens, early 20s, I would get a lot of questions from people as I started to forged my career. Why you have this incredible like life, childhood, parents, doing this amazing thing that is, a lot of people's dream. Why aren't you just following directly in their footsteps? And I think that I always used to think about that question, and I was very, very close to my parents growing up, and it was for no reason of like wanting to, do something opposite of them or something like that. I loved every minute of what we did. But I feel like I needed to forge my own path of some sort, do something that was slightly different, of my own choosing, and kind of see how that went. And so I chose graphic design. So it was still a creative endeavor, very similar to photography. So it wasn't something completely different. But yeah, I pursued graphic design, and that kind of forged or formed my career. But what was really interesting is the older I got, and I continue to always get that question, why didn't you, why aren't you doing what they're doing? And I think the older I got, the more I reflected on it, the more I realized, I actually should be doing much more things closely connected. And so the older I got, I started to come back into the family in terms of starting to work together much more directly with mom and dad, and doing projects together where our different skill sets were combined. And so now it's almost like fully me and Tori are just working directly with them every day. And so it feels great to actually have gone out and come back and now be working directly with them.
Really good.
But what about Tori? What about the transition to you, Tori?
Yeah, Tori.
You see, you've seen Kenya, but also obviously, America and your family. And how's it been for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned to Parimal on a call the other day, I think it was such a rewarding experience to meet David and see that there was this amazing other path that we could pursue, coming from a more corporate background, like seeing that perhaps we could do something that contributed to something that was meaningful to both of us, like conservation, pursuing a path that felt a little bit more fulfilling. So I feel very lucky to have met David and to be a part of this family and to be able to contribute my skills in any type of way. So
and what an amazing addition. I mean, I think we often talk as a family, we couldn't do what we're doing without each of us. We each bring a completely, unique thing to the table. And Tori just, she does so much.
She's the organizer.
She keeps
us all together.
Well, also Parimal, what is so amazing about Tori is she's so sweet and polite. When I get it wrong, she's just sends me a little email and says, I don't know what you think about this idea or whatever it was. And it's just so amazing because she's got such great ideas, and you suddenly think, that's a really good idea. so yeah, but I think that's one of the, I think they've hit the nail on the head. We're at, I won't say towards the end of our career, but we can only live for so long. But the wonder for us is to see us being able to bring all of the things that we've done in the past and create something more out of them, because David and Tori have got the skill sets to be able to, for instance, we won't go into too much detail, but, we're now talking with lots of other people of developments of this and that and other photographers to sort of, see there are so many areas available to us through new technology and through all the social media platforms. And as we all know, content is king.
Yeah. So I'm going to wrap this up with one last question to all of you. And let's start with David, Tori first, and Art. It's the same question for all of you, and we'll end with Angie and Johnny. And the question is this: having documented and having seen, either the Marsh Pride or, seeing Africa, Kenya, Serengeti, wildlife in general, what is the one message or wish you would have for us all, for humanity at large, that you feel we should consider something's at stake here? And I'm going to let, as a reminder, David, Tori, you guys first, Art second, and then we will end with Angie and Johnny.
Sounds good. Do you want me to start? I think it's a really amazing question. And I think we're working closely with my parents on a new book. And it makes me think of that because the subtitle of the book is Reconnecting People to Our Planet. And I think that the human beings as a species, we've started to, or for a very long time, almost like withdraw ourselves from the natural world and on almost like this species that exists outside of nature. And I think my wish or my parting message to the world would be it's of utmost importance that we reconnect ourselves back, integrated into nature, revere nature, celebrate nature, and actually see ourselves as part of this holistic system. And if we don't, I think our survival depends on it. And it also is key to our happiness and our well-being. So I think finding a way to reconnect ourselves back into nature is just the most important message in the world.
Couldn't agree more. Well said.
Well said. Nothing more to say.
Yeah.
Well, for me, there's so many good stories being done on a smaller level. For instance, what you were saying about making or considering the Mara region World Heritage. Those are regional stories that are compelling and great. The overall desire for me is for people to put politicians in place that recognize the speed with which we've got to act to stem the rapidly warming Earth. Because as David said, we don't have much time to really make that happen. So I think we've got to support all the NGOs that are doing good work, but we've got, and in America, we've got to place politicians that recognize the speed with which we've got to change the way we live. Otherwise, all the regional things that we're protecting will go away as well, as will us. Now, that's a very negative view. The positive view is there's politicians that recognize that we've got to get them in office, and it will start, I think, hopefully with the United States.
Thank you. Angie?
Well, I'll let Jonathan speak this one.
You know, I think I caught Art catching himself as he said, but that may sound a bit gloomy and doomsday and whatever it is.
John, if you can back up a little bit so we can see if...
Yeah, so I think that, you know, Art almost went there. And I think David's hit it in a nutshell. Yeah, Art reinforced it, which is, you know, people aren't powerless and every voice counts. And in today's world, you can't afford to sit there waiting for somebody else to do it, especially politicians. You have to realize that if we're going to change this story, we all have to take responsibility. And it doesn't matter, as Art said, you know, that's on a regional level, but actually every individual needs to start, and they probably need to start at home in the way they live, by actually modifying the way they live so as they actually aren't being part of the problem. Because we all know what the problems are now: wasting water, wasting electricity, you know, too much, you know, exploitative use of the planet. But I think more than anything, we have to keep ourselves alert. We have to keep talking about these issues, but we can't just talk. But at the same time, we have to keep hope alive. It's something that the likes of Jane Goodall, David Attenborough, you know, the bottom line is, there's that wonderful saying, and some people say it was Eleanor Roosevelt who said it first, but I know that Bernard Jimmock said it, the gentleman who came to the Serengeti and wrote a book, Serengeti Shall Not Die. And he said, better to light a candle than to curse the darkness.
That's a great expression.
That's well said. That's well said. Well, on that note, I want to thank you all. You know, I think we started with the big cat people, but we ended with the big cat family. That's wonderful.
Yeah, that was
against the backdrop. Against the
backdrop. Stroke of genius. Incredible stroke of genius. And also, Parimal, thank goodness that you were here, and we actually, before we went live, we managed to sort the technical issues.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. No, and it's like I said, a dream come true to have you all, you know, in one screen. In fact, if I could take a screen grab, this to me is another Marsh Pride. You know, all of us here, and also all the audiences watching now live and watching the replays, which is thousands of people eventually watch this in the next, 24 to 48 hours. I could predict at least 20,000 people will watch this. So I just want to thank everyone because truly every time we achieve the purpose of Earth as a Witness is to show the connectivity of everything, go beyond pretty images, go beyond photography. I think we achieved something special, and we did that today in abundance. So I want to thank you all really once again. And I would love to have you all back for a different story next time, sometime soon. So with that, thanks again.
We salute you for a great idea and for your charm and dignity and humor and sweetness. And you made it happen, and you deserve all the success that you're obviously going, you've created a wonderful forum for people. And to have Art there as well, who is such a wonderful man and a wonderful photographer, just brilliant. We're so proud and pleased to be part of that. And of course, to have our family here.
That's right. Very special. No, thank you.
Okay,
all.
so now it's time for